We spend a lot of time on this show talking about resilience.
Yeah.
We look at CEOs who bounce back from bankruptcy or athletes coming back from an ACL tear, and we love those stories because they fit um, a very specific, comfortable template.
Right, the standard business school case study sort of thing.
Exactly. But today I want to look at a comeback story that makes those other examples look, well, kind of tame by comparison.
It's definitely not the standard narrative arc, that's for sure.
Not even close.
Yeah.
We're talking about a woman who built a prolific career as a top-tier specialist in a highly controversial industry. She lost her identity in the process, suffered a catastrophic accident that left her paralyzed in a desert, and then
And then just 3 years later stood on the literal ceiling of Africa.
right, Mount Kilimanjaro. It is a narrative arc that if you wrote it as fiction, people would tell you it's too much, it's too on the nose.
Yeah, you have the rise, the fall, the physical breakage, and the spiritual ascent. It's the classic hero's journey. But set against a backdrop that I think most of polite society refuses to discuss seriously.
And that backdrop is the adult film industry. We are doing a deep dive today into the life of Bobbi Bliss.
And right away, we should tell you the sources we're pulling from today.
Yeah, we've got a stack of them. We're looking at industry databases like the IAFD biographical entries, award records, and details directly from her own personal website.
Which is important because before anyone tunes out thinking they know what this is about, trust me, you don't.
Right, this isn't just a list of films. Our mission today is to look beyond that. This is a story about the human body, using it, breaking it, and reclaiming it.
That's the absolute key theme here, agency and control. For an industry performer like Bobbi Bliss, her body was her entire livelihood. It was her tool, her product, her brand.
So when that tool was taken away by a freak accident, the psychological fallout had to be just as heavy as the physical injury.
Oh, absolutely. But to really understand that loss, we have to understand what she built first.
Okay, so let's set the scene. We need to go back to 1997. Bobbi Bliss was born in Santa Clara County, California on January 6, 1973. So she is 24 years old when she enters the business.
And 1997 is a very specific era in the adult industry.
Right, the transition period.
Exactly. It was kind of the Wild West. You have to remember, this is right at the tipping point between the old VHS mail order days and the massive explosion of the internet.
It wasn't the corporate, highly regulated machine that it is today.
No, it was chaotic. And you actually see that chaos right away in her file. There is no consistency even in her name.
Yeah, I noticed that looking at the IAFD. You look at the records, and it's Bobby with an I or Bobby with an IE. Sometimes she is billed under aliases like Audra Bliss or Lori Powell.
It almost seems like she was trying on identities like clothes.
Or maybe the industry just didn't care enough to get it right.
That's a huge part of it. In that era, performers were often treated as interchangeable parts. You showed up, you performed your technical requirements, you got paid cash, and you left.
Branding was a total afterthought.
Right. But despite that administrative mess, Bobbi stood out immediately. She had a very specific look that cut through all that noise.
She had the quote-unquote all-American vibe, right?
Yeah, exactly. 5'6", blue eyes, brown hair. But with an edge.
The distinguishing mark.
Right. She had a dolphin tattoo on her right buttock and a tongue piercing. And while tattoos and piercings are super common now in the late 90s, that specific combination of girl next door plus alt rebellion was a really potent marketing mix.
But she didn't just rely on the look. She quickly realized that to survive long-term in that industry, you can't just be a generalist.
No, you have to specialize.
It's like a doctor choosing neurosurgery over family practice.
That's a surprisingly accurate analogy. In the adult world, there are general performers, and then there are specialists who are hired for a highly specific technical skill.
And Bobbi Bliss decided, or maybe just discovered, that her specialization was oral performance.
And we aren't just talking about being willing to do it. She was technically proficient at a level that literally won awards.
She was elite. In 2000, she won an XRCO award.
And for those listening who don't know, the XRCO isn't just a fan vote. It stands for the X-Rated Critics Organization.
These are the industry critics and historians.
Exactly. So when they give you an award, it's like winning a technical Oscar. And the category she won was Orgasmic Oralist.
She was often referred to as the oral queen by industry sites. There is even a credit on the cover of a film called We Go Deep 7, where she's billed as Oral Performer of the Year.
Though they used a much more colorful industry term on the actual box art.
Which we will gloss over to keep on the right side of YouTube monetization policies.
Fair enough. But the point stands. She had a reputation for capacity. She could handle scenes and physical demands that other performers simply couldn't.
It was almost an athletic ability.
It was entirely athletic, controlling her breathing, her reflexes, her endurance.
And the volume of work really supports that work ethic. She appeared in something like 150 to 160 films between 1997 and her initial retirement.
Which is just a staggering grind.
Right? That is showing up to a set and performing at a high physical level day in and day out for 5 years.
It's exhausting. And unlike someone like Jenna Jameson, who crossed over into mainstream celebrity and could maybe pick and choose her projects more carefully,
Right.
Bobbi was a working class star.
She was in the trenches.
Yeah, she worked for the big studios, Vivid, VCA Odyssey, but she was grinding. And that kind of intensity where you are constantly renting out your body, it definitely takes a toll.
Which brings us to the first major pivot point in her timeline, the burnout.
Yeah.
Around 2002 or 2003, right at the peak of her powers, she just stops.
It was very sudden. And the reason she gave wasn't about money or contract disputes. It was existential.
She wrote about it on her website later. Right?
Yeah, she said she, quote, didn't know who she was anymore and that she needed a little break.
That phrase really haunts me. Didn't know who she was. You spend 5 years being Bobbi Bliss, the girl with the dolphin tattoo, who does this one specific technical thing better than anyone else.
And eventually the person underneath gets suffocated.
The girl from Santa Clara just vanishes into the brand.
It's the ultimate commodification of the self. When your entire identity is a performance, silence becomes terrifying because you just don't know how to exist without an audience.
So she steps away to find herself. She's trying to reset. And then the universe just deals her a hand that is incredibly cruel.
The accident.
Right. It's 2003. She is on this hiatus trying to clear her head, and she goes mountain biking in a desert.
And she crashes. Badly. Now, the sources don't give us the specific medical reports, but the outcome was undeniable. It was a catastrophic injury that resulted in temporary paralysis of both arms.
Just pause on that for a second if you're listening. This is a woman whose entire life, her income, her fame, her identity is built on her physical body.
Specifically, her ability to perform highly demanding physical acts.
Right. And suddenly she is in a hospital bed and she can't even lift a spoon.
It is the ultimate loss of agency. If a pianist loses their hands, they lose their music. Bobbi lost her ability to interact with the world entirely.
And this is where the story gets really strange, and I think really telling about her specific character.
You mean the recovery method?
Yeah, the dual recovery method. This is one of those details that you just cannot make up.
No, it's wild. According to her own accounts, she took 2 completely different paths to heal her arms simultaneously.
So basically, one arm for the doctors and one arm for the spirits.
Essentially, yes. She claims that one arm was rehabilitated using traditional Western medicine, physical therapy, surgery, the standard clinical route.
Okay, and the other arm?
She turned to natural healing.
That sounds chaotic.
It does. But knowing what we know about her openness to experimentation, it kind of fits. It's like she was hedging her bets.
Or she was just completely desperate. When you're paralyzed and the doctors are giving you conservative estimates, you probably become willing to try anything.
Right. It shows a mind that refuses to accept the status quo. She wasn't going to just sit there and wait. She was attacking the paralysis from every conceivable angle.
And it worked. She won. She regained the use of her arms, but she didn't just get back to a baseline normal. She didn't just settle for being able to brush her hair again.
No, she decided to test her body in the most extreme way possible.
This is the part of the deep dive that absolutely blows my mind. Most people, after recovering from bilateral arm paralysis, would be cautious. They would protect their body.
Not Bobbi Bliss. 3 years post-accident in 2006, she flies to Tanzania.
Because she is going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro.
Right. And this isn't a walk in the park. She went for Uhuru Peak, which is 19,341 feet.
The roof of Africa. And here is the kicker from the source material. She reportedly did this without the aid of oxygen and without Dimox.
Now, for those of you who haven't climbed a high-altitude mountain, we should explain why no Dimox is a massive deal.
I always thought that was just standard safety gear.
It is. Dimox is an altitude medication that helps your body acclimatize. It prevents cerebral edema, which is swelling of the brain, and pulmonary edema. At 19,000 feet, the air pressure is less than half of what it is at sea level. Your body is quite literally starving for oxygen. You get splitting headaches, extreme nausea fatigue. Your limbs feel like lead.
So she is voluntarily putting herself in a situation where her body feels heavy, unresponsive, and painful.
Which sounds exactly like the paralysis she had just escaped.
Wow. Yeah, that is the psychological brilliance of it, isn't it? She is revisiting the physical trauma, but this time she is the one choosing it.
Exactly. She is telling her body, you are going to feel pain, you are going to struggle for air, but you are going to move because I say so.
It's a total reclamation of power over her physical form. Doing it without the meds means there was no buffer. She wanted to feel every single step of that climb.
It proves that her resilience wasn't a fluke. The exact same discipline that allowed her to perform in 150 adult films, that ability to dissociate from physical discomfort and execute a technical job, was the exact same skill set she used to summit that mountain.
It's such a hardcore pivot. To go from the desert floor, completely unable to move her arms, to the highest point in Africa, standing on her own 2 feet.
You would think that would be the end of the movie. Fade to black, she retires and lives quietly.
But Bobbi Bliss wasn't done with her old life yet.
Not at all. And this is where the reinvention part of her arc really solidifies. In January 2007, she reappears.
She walks right onto the floor of the AVN convention in Las Vegas.
Which is essentially the Super Bowl of the industry.
But she isn't there just to sign autographs and do meet and greets?
No. In February 2007, she launches Bobbi Bliss Entertainment. She partners with her lover, and she starts her own production company.
She completely flips the script. She's not just the talent anymore, she is the boss.
She owns the means of production. It's an incredibly savvy business move, but she knew that to successfully launch a company in that space, she needed a hook.
Right, she needed to remind the industry exactly who she was.
She needed a comeback performance that would silence any doubters who thought the accident or the hiatus had made her lose her edge.
And this brings us to the comeback project, the impossible feat.
Now, we have to tread carefully here with our language, but we need to explain the magnitude of this specific achievement within her field.
Right. Her return film was titled Suck It, Drive 4.
Produced by Evil Empire and Elegant Angel. And in this film, she took on a scene with a performer named Mandingo.
Correct. Now, in the industry, this specific performer is known for extreme physical dimensions.
We are talking about physical attributes that are statistical outliers. Accommodating a partner of that size isn't just a standard scene. It is a profound technical and physical challenge.
It's athletics. Honestly, it's like powerlifting.
That is the perfect comparison. There are records in this industry just like in sports. And the sources explicitly note that many top-tier stars, legends in the industry like Katsumi, had attempted to fully accommodate the specific performer in an oral scene and failed.
They just couldn't physically do it.
It was the 500-pound deadlift that nobody could pull.
And Bobbi Bliss, freshly recovered from paralysis, steps up to the bar.
And the records state she is the only performer who managed to fully accommodate him. She didn't just get through the scene, she executed her technical specialization flawlessly.
Now, why does that matter? I mean, outside of the obvious shock value for the consumer.
It matters because it was her way of planting a flag. She was telling the entire industry, I have been paralyzed, I have climbed a mountain, and I am still the absolute best in the world at this specific skill.
It completely validated her legacy. It proved her early success wasn't just because she was young and new to the scene. It was because she had an elite technical mastery that survived even a broken body.
She needed to prove that the accident didn't take anything from her. She came back stronger.
And she came back on her own terms.
Exactly. She was directing her own career now. She was open about her evolving interests, too. The sources mentioned she started exploring scenes with women and different types of experimentation she hadn't done before.
She was no longer just a product on a studio shelf. She was the artist and the canvas.
You know, when we first started looking into the source material, I expected a tragic story.
Yeah, the industry is known for eating people up. We see it all the time, the burnout, the fading away.
But Bobbi's story is strangely triumphant.
It completely defies the stereotype. We tend to view people in that industry as victims, or at best, as people making questionable choices.
But when you look at the actual timeline, 1997, the Rise, 2000, the XRCO Awards, 2003, the Paralysis, 2006, Mountaineering, and 2007, Business Mogul.
You see a person of incredible, undeniable drive.
It really challenges the niche celebrity bias. We see a thumbnail or a category tag, and we think we know the whole person. Oh, she's the oral specialist.
But behind that tag is a woman who battled paralysis with alternative medicine and climbed Kilimanjaro without oxygen.
It forces you to acknowledge the complexity of the human underneath the brand. She had to lose her identity to find it again.
She had to break her body to understand how strong it actually was.
And she realized that her value wasn't just in what she could physically do for a studio camera, but in what she could endure for herself.
It really is a story about the body as a vessel. First she rented it out, then it broke, then she dragged it up a mountain to prove it still worked, and finally she took true ownership of it.
And that ownership is the real happy ending here. It's not about whether you personally approve of the adult film industry or not. It is about recognizing the sheer force of will required to navigate that specific life path and come out on top.
So let's wrap this deep dive up with a thought for everyone listening right now. Most of you will never win an industry award, and most of you will never summit Kilimanjaro.
Probably a safe bet.
But we all have that one thing we think defines us right.
Yeah.
I'm the smart one, I'm the fast one, I'm the reliable one.
We build our entire castles on those pillars.
Exactly. But Bobbi Bliss showed us what happens when the pillar collapses. When the thing you are famous for, the thing that literally pays your bills, is taken away in an instant.
She didn't crumble, she just found a new mountain.
She redefined what performance meant entirely. So the provocative question for you to mull over is this. If you lost your thing tomorrow, if you couldn't do the job or the hobby that you think makes you who you are, what would you do to prove you still exist?
What mountain would you climb?
Think about that one on your commute or while you're doing the dishes. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We will catch you on the next one.
Stay curious.